Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. Welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom, and today we're talking about getting garlic to grow in containers. And yes, you can do it. You know, when you buy a garlic bulb in the store, unless it's been treated, it will eventually start sprouting. And if you were to break it up and plant one of these cloves, just like this, in the ground, you would get garlic. You would get a whole bulb from one little clove. What a bonus that is. And I've done it in containers before. It does work pretty well. A couple of things you have to do is you need to have the container in full sun. It needs to be well drained, and it needs to be fed, so it needs to have adequate nutrients so that you get the garlic. When I grow the garlic in containers, I like to have a pretty big container. So this is about 18 inches apart, and I've got 9 different garlic plants in there, and they should mature pretty good. Now, it won't be quite as big as it would have been if it had been in the ground, but you can still grow it in containers. You can see here I've got the nice scapes that are coming this time of the year. It needs to be kept evenly moist. Just don't let it dry out. I do give it fertilizer. And like I said, the garlic heads won't be quite as big as you would get in the ground. And you could also put fewer in the pot and get a bigger one, but I like to try to get a lot of these little heads. And these are pretty thick. There's already obviously garlic here, but when you plant this, a couple of tips. I plant this in the fall, and you want to put it down just so that you see the little tip there, and then just barely cover it, generally with about a ½ inch. And then I use pine needles on top of my garlic, and I planted, normally I'll put this in October, and what will happen is it'll sprout barely going into winter, and then this is the result that we've already talked about here in the summer. Our container of garlic already has the garlic scapes. I like to cut these off. I just go right down to where it meets the plant, give it a little snip, and after that's cut, you can take the garlic scape there and use it. They make delicious dishes. You can go read about it. Garlic scape hummus, for example, I love to do that. So here's the garlic in the container, definitely doing pretty well so far. So of course, garlic in the ground will do better than in a container. It just, you know, it's got more room, it's got more nutrients, more evenly watered, and I prefer this, but, you know, and there's your scapes. But if you are limited for space, the container is the way to go. So remember, just one garlic clove gives you a garlic bulb. You can plant it, of course, in the garden. I prefer actually to plant it in a lawn garden area instead of a container, but if you're limited for space, you can get garlic to grow in containers. What a great thing to harvest. It's pretty easy too. Just kind of leave it alone and then harvest it later on in the summer, and then you can make lots of dishes with it. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.